Hey, folks, welcome back to Crypto Heartbeat. My name is Matt. It is 1 o'clock Central Texas time, March 25th. And if you've ever told kids to get off your lawn, this is the stream for you. This is the old man's guide to crypto. We're going to be talking about some things. I've had a number of people that are older than Crypto Heartbeat. And I guess in this degen world, I'm like considered ancient. So sorry if you're older than I am. But we're going to be talking about some real basic stuff, but I'm going to give you a perspective because I've had some people who are not into crypto whatsoever asking me, "Hey, what should I do?" Okay, and this is going to be a common thing for you potentially if you got friends, and generally the people that watch Crypto Heartbeat, sometimes they're a bit more mature, if you know what I mean. So, for example, if you're somebody that's ever forgotten to rewind a tape before you took it to Blockbuster, this is the stream for you. If you remember when Googling wasn't a verb, right? If you've ever blown into a game cartridge, right? Put it in the Atari game cartridge, you're blown it. This is the stream for you. And if you've ever stopped and asked for directions because you couldn't read your map, this is likely also a stream for you. Before we get into this good stuff, and we talk about really the big alpha thing is I'm going to be telling you the timeline as best as I know it, right? So I'm going to give essentially non-financial advice, educational content. I do not provide financial advice, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the tea leaves that I read, and you're going to be able to read them yourself. Okay, so some of this is going to be unpopular because you'll think, oh, Crypto Heartbeat's going to recommend Hex and Texan and all that stuff. No, I'm going to actually share with you the macro. Okay, you may make a decision on your own to do something else, but this isn't one of those kind of shill. This is really for somebody that's like, all right, I've heard about the crypto stuff. I know about all these young kids who have done really well in it. I got a little extra walking around money and I thought maybe I'll take a flyer, right? That's really common how people enter into the crypto space. It's how I did, how I got into Hex. My $600 turned into 15,000. It happens. And people are like, well, what makes sense? And so I'm going to give you my perspective of what I think makes sense. And maybe that'll be a helpful thing to you. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's say hello to you in the chat and then let's get into the content. Hopefully this will be valuable. I'm trying to bring value. Folks, Bitcoin broke 70,000. That's a big deal, folks. Everybody, all the old people are getting in. All the boomers are getting into crypto. So you need to know what's going on. But you really need to understand DeFi. And that'll be kind of the undertone of all of this. I hope you're well. Cough button coming. All right. Checks my pulse is number one. What's going on? Good afternoon to you, my friend. What's up, Hexicans, Pulsicans, Texicans? Academaciated, back again, afternoon all, and Pulse Chain Trainer's like, hey, who you calling old? Well, you look way younger because you're so fit. So I don't even know how old you are, Pulse Chain Trainer, but you seem way younger than me. But I'm glad that you're here. Rich Liberation, let's go Texan. 10 tops here. Rich Liberation, exciting times ahead. There's no question. And I think once you hear this stream and what I have to say, you'll relax. You'll relax. I hope so. Crypto Elite, hey there. Sam Camp, oh, thanks. A live stream just for me. Sam Camp. Sam Kemp is an elder statesman, and Sam Kemp is one of the hardest working, most energetic guys. He's like up at 5 a.m. saying hello to all the Texicans, and he is just fantastic, working hard for Texas independence and for all things freedom and thinking about these great grandkids. Isn't that cool? I'm just so glad that there's a place for you and me, Sam Kemp. It's the best. All right, let's see. Crypto Ethos, slightly younger, but I'm here. That's right, slightly. I got some months on you, buddy, but I'm glad you're here. It was great connecting with you. Grandpa Pulse is here. Man, it's drawn in the right demographic of people. Finally made it on time. Thanks for being here, Grandpa. Atlantean, fantastic. Fire. Okay, I get it. Had a cassette player in the car, eat the tape and using the eraser to fix it. Dude, with the pencil, right? You're winding it because it all pulled itself out. Absolutely. I remember when I was a kid, the 8-track player was kind of going out, but there were still 8-tracks in my dad's 1970 Cutlass that had positraction. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? That had the 8-track in it. But then, of course, tape decks. I mean, I had the mixtape going across the country, if you know what I mean. Um, we saw my kids didn't know what a payphone was. That's another thing. Dr. Giggles, howdy y'all. Crispy, dude, hey, Heartbeat and Gang. Crispy, folks, if you're not, Crispy Man is the man with all the alpha. And Drix, what's going on, Drix? Good to see you. Thanks for joining today. Let's get into the content, have a little fun with this one. So I'm going to walk you through first and foremost, just a little 10 ways to help old timers get a grip on crypto without needing to crack open a dictionary. This is a little chat GPT for you. Crypto is like a traditional piggy bank, but digital and without the satisfying smash when you need to access your savings. Instead of breaking it, you get your password and you get locked out forever, which that's true, right? Instead of breaking it, you forget your password and get locked out forever. That's the sad part. We don't want that to happen to you. Investing in Bitcoin is akin to betting on racehorses, except the horses are invisible and the track is made of math. And just like the races, sometimes you win big and other times you're left holding a very expensive digital beer. Number 3, imagine if your secret family recipe was protected like a crypto wallet, only instead of a recipe card, it's a series of nonsensical words that even your nosy neighbor couldn't guess. These are really bad. Mining for Bitcoin is a bit like searching for loose change in your couch. But you need a supercomputer and a hefty electricity bill. Plus, no matter how much you find, you still can't use it to tip the pizza delivery guy. We're early still, right? NFTs are the digital equivalent of those collectible plates your grandmother loved, but with more pixels and less plate. And just like those plates, you're not entirely sure why they're valuable, but you're afraid to throw them out. Yeah, that's true. We got to respect grandma and her plates. Explaining blockchain to an old timer is like describing color TV to someone in the 1950s. So you're telling me these blockchains together somehow, and that's supposed to be impressive? Oh my goodness. Crypto exchanges are like traditional banks, but run by the cool, mysterious kids in school you were never quite sure about. Yeah, the trench coat mafia types. They also never have pens chained to their desk, mainly because there are no desks. Buying Bitcoin or buying crypto is similar to adopting a cat. It's all fun and games until it starts going on a rampage at 3 a.m. This is true. And just like cats, you tell everyone how much joy it brings you while quietly wondering if you made a mistake. Cryptocurrency is the financial world's version of a mood ring. That's something we can relate to. It changes color or value with the mood of the market and sometimes makes just as much sense. Oh, look, it's blue today. That either means it's calm or about to storm. Better consult the horoscope. Yeah, it's uncertain at times, and we're going to hopefully help clear some of that stuff up. Remember when you saved all those old coins and stamps? I had a stamp collection. My dad had a whole coin collection. It was really cool. Thinking they'd be worth a fortune someday. Crypto is kind of like that, but you can't touch it, and there's a slight chance it might vanish overnight. That is true. So these are some of the things to kind of get you warmed up into this old man's guide to crypto. And obviously, some of this stuff is tongue in cheek, of course, right? But there's going to be some real. I'm just going to give you perspective. Okay, so let's get started with that. So, folks, I've had some folks talk to me. I'll just use let's see, what would it be? An amalgamation of different people I've talked to. And there's some folks that are definitely over 50 who've got, let's say they've got 50 grand, right? Kicking around. And there's a lot of people that are kind of what I would consider to be, let's just say boomers and some Gen Xers, right? They've got some savings, they've got some extra capital. They don't want to kind of miss out on this, but they don't know what to do. And so I make a point of saying this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I've been hearing and the people I've been talking to. And so one of the things that I think is hard when you're in something that's so speculative like crypto is, and if you really boil this down, it's not tied to anything, right? Crypto is, it's a shared fiction. It's an agreement that we have with each other. But that's the same thing as fiat currency. And why things are so exciting right now is because after we got off the gold standard, and that's something that you can relate to, I'm sure, if you're an old fella like me, is what 1971, 72, Bretton Woods, they basically pulled us off the gold standard. And so you could not, get gold or silver for your certificates, if you will. Well, that's a big issue because what it essentially is it has value because we say it has value. And governments and states and countries, basically say, hey, this is what we're going to accept as legal tender. But if you look at the paper of the fiat currency, the dollar bill, it's a debt instrument. And you'll see that, right? The Federal Reserve debt instrument. And so when you look at it, you realize, okay, this is not backed by anything. Well, here comes crypto and here comes the blockchain. And we've got cryptography, which is really just these means by which you can keep things safe to assure that they aren't double spent. You can ensure that there's no counterfeiting. And what you're doing is you're decentralizing across all these computers across the world to basically say, is it correct? Is it correct? Is it correct? So think about this. It's a big spreadsheet in the sky. And that spreadsheet, basically, you can only read it and write to it. Okay. You can't change it. And what happens is you basically ask a bunch of different people who are validators or people that are agreeing to secure the network, hey, is this correct? Are these past transactions correct? And is this one correct? And we write to the next block. And what that does is it provides assurance. Now you get into crypto tokens and coins, and what you have is something that's way better than fiat currency. Why? Because within the programming of the technology, which is just code, and it's actually quite simple, you have things like the maximum supply. Well, there's one thing we know about the dollar is there is no maximum supply. It's the amount that they would like to print, right? Remember the zombie virus, the Charlie 19, right? They just printed money, right? And that is an issue because what are we suffering from now, right? We dole out all this money and now we just end up paying for it at the gas pump. We pay for it in inflation. And so, this is the issue. But we have all of these liabilities, right? Unfunded liabilities. And so we've kind of, because of this cheap money, right? We went to zero interest rates. Because of all these cheap money, we could have it now. And I think when I was a young fellow and when Sam Kemp was a young fellow, you didn't have access to cheap, easy money. And so what did you do? Well, you just dealt with what you had. People paid cash for stuff. And if you didn't have cash, you didn't buy it. There wasn't a bunch of credit cards. There wasn't a bunch of free money. There wasn't a bunch of loose. But what did that do? Well, for the individual, now, the kids have $1,000 iPhone. You can't even imagine. Like Sam Kemp would be like, there's no way you would have had something that nice as a kid. But it was part of the culture of that time. But this easing of the money, making it easy to get, has basically said you can have it now. Well, let's say you're in commercial real estate. Well, that means you can go get hundreds of millions of dollars of loans, right? Cheap money. And they really are pushing this debt, because ultimately usury, or in this case, interest, is the way that they make their money. Loan this stuff out. Well, that's about to change. And that system is going to literally fall and implode on itself. And you know it and I know it. This thing, Babylon's going to burn, my friends. And so what's the alternative? What's coming next? And what is a way in which you can hedge against that loss? Well, the old days, it would have been gold and silver, right? And I'm not debating that that's not a good move as far as a hedge against inflation and those type of things, because commodities generally do well in these recession depression times. But we're coming into that. And that's what Jerome Powell talked about most recently, is that, hey, we're coming into a recession likely, and it could be a depression. All right, what's that going to mean? Well, commodities are going to do well. Well, what is the digital version of commodities? Well, that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? The blue chips, if you will, in crypto. And, there's a lot of benefits to not having to carry around a sack of gold, right? It's really difficult to have can you imagine you're carrying around a 55-gallon drum of oil, right? It's not real practical, right? Can you imagine paying somebody ladling out oil for people? Hey, here, I got some crude oil for you. No, it doesn't make sense. And so with cryptocurrency, we've got this opportunity to be able to do some amazing things, but also it's outside of the control of central bankers. And that's really powerful, because how Bitcoin started and how crypto started was really, really to put a finger in the eye of the centralized planners, and this ability to say, we're going to create our own money. And it is going to be the first time in human history where political power and financial power are separated. That's a huge statement. Raoul Pal's the one I got that from. This is the first time in human history where political power and financial power are separated. It used to be you would win a war, you'd kill the people, take their gold, and then rewrite the rules in your favor. So always power politically has been coupled with money. What would things look like if we were not coupled with money? What if the power, right? Just think about how much money we sent to the Ukraine. What if they couldn't get to that money unless they went through you? Right? So they've set up a system that basically just reaches into your pocket. It's theft, right? They're just taking from you. And it's set up that way. That's when they say, "Oh, it's based on the good faith and credit of the, people of the United States." You know what that means? You're the producer, you're not the consumer. I'm going to reach into your pocket because you're the one that actually uses your creative ability to create goods and services. I'm going to basically steal from you and go hand it over and money launder it through Ukraine. Anyway, those are my opinions. Take it for what it's worth. However, what does that mean? And what does it mean for us in the future? So you're this guy, you got some extra money, you know about crypto, and you're like, what do I do? Well, if you look at the macro from my perspective, and this is just my perspective, take it for what it's worth. I believe that Bitcoin has gotten to the point where it is being controlled by centralized planners, right? We're seeing this with the Bitcoin ETF. We're seeing this with BlackRock. We're seeing this with MicroStrategies. The majority of the Bitcoin supply is being hoarded and taken over by the old guard, the big institutional people with money. On the flip side, because there's so many, few people who have the technology to mine the Bitcoin, and it's about to get twice as difficult, that means it's actually quite centralized in its hash rate, meaning the people that are actually mining Bitcoin. So in the wise words of Axie's Alive, I will say this. He said, we are going to have to sacrifice Bitcoin on the altar of decentralization. Okay, so to me, Bitcoin is out from my perspective, right? So if I had 50K and I didn't know anything about all this pulse chain stuff, I would say, all right, what do I need? What do I want? Well, Richard Hart, right, the prognosticator of prognosticators, he's made a call for Bitcoin's top being $241,500. You may or may not agree with that. That's a call he's making right now. But let me ask you about Ethereum. So Ethereum, when it comes to kind of the blue chips, there's Bitcoin, then there's Ethereum. Well, the Pulse chain is a fork of Ethereum. And so we're going to talk about two things as it relates to Ethereum. We're going to talk about Ethereum itself and then the Pulse chain, which has been forked from it, meaning a copy's been made. So Ethereum, what has made it so incredible is the fact that you can build alternative coins and tokens and decentralized applications on top of Ethereum. And that is significant. And so when you look at when Ethereum came out, which was 2015, and then you look way back to when Bitcoin came out, Ethereum is really the infrastructure, right? It's considered a layer one. That infrastructure of Ethereum is being really, really, really supported with all kinds of projects. Now, right now, they got an issue with the fees, the cost of the fees, but I'm going to put that aside for a second. The question I ask people that have, they don't know anything about crypto and they're older, right? And this is important. You're not 25. Let's say you're 55 to 75. You're not looking at the same time horizon. Well, when I look at things like that, I'm like, well, what do I want? Well, I'm hoping I live through this next cycle, right? And we're going to talk about what this cycle is. But these cycles are in kind of 4-year cycles based on the halvening of Bitcoin, and we'll explain that. But where we are currently, if I wanted to do well, right, my finances, my $50,000, I look at Ethereum and I go, what's Ethereum sitting at? And actually, let's look at what Ethereum's price is at this very moment. Ethereum is 3,600, 3,390. Okay, so it's about $3,500. Well, if Bitcoin's going to be at 241,000, what do I think Ethereum's going to be at? Well, I mean, $10,000 or $11,000. Okay, so let me ask you this: if you could have, let's say, you could double your money, most people over 50 would go, "What you talking about, Willis?" And if you're old, you know exactly what I'm referencing. Doubling your money? That's insane. I remember when I first got into crypto, I'm like, what are you talking about X's? I'm talking percentages, right? 50% of your money, that's like old man stock market stuff. You're like, ooh, that's great. Doubling your money? That's got to be a scam, right? And then you find out people got like a 10,000X. You're like, no way, that's not even possible. And that's a really common response, but it is possible and it has happened. But I look at the people that are very conservative, that are older, and I would say the majority of people that I know, they diversify in a way, and I'm not recommending that you do this or not, but this is what I've heard, is they're like, you know what, I have a lion's share of my resources in Ethereum because I believe that in this cycle, after the halvening, we're going to go from about 3,500 to at least 10,000. Well, what is that? 3,500 bucks to 10,000. That's a pretty good return on your investment. That's well over doubling your money. When it comes to the things that are considered the blue chips, I'm out on Bitcoin personally. Ethereum, okay. All right, you're being really conservative. Do I think Ethereum's a rug pull? Do I think Ethereum is a meme coin? No, I don't. Now, do I think the fees are really high? Yeah, but if I got $50,000, okay, it might be an interesting play. And I know a number of people that are resting a lot of their resources on Ethereum itself, right? And they're just like, hey, I'm gonna roll with this this cycle. And so let's say your $3,500 Ethereum goes to 10,000. Great. We're going to talk about the timelines, and I'm going to give you some, my perspective on when you got to get out. Because here's the thing in crypto, when it's over, it is over. And literally, it will drop 85%, and you're going to have to wait 3 years. And that's just what happens. And if you don't know that, you get caught up in this as it's going down, thinking it's going to go up. It's not. When the big boys are out, the big boys are out, and that's the cycle. Now, will it get less volatile potentially as more people get in? However, it's been that way since the beginning. So, all right, what do you need? What do you want? And I see a lot of people criticizing the people that are in Bitcoin, like, oh, you're just going to get a 2x. Well, there's a lot of people out there who are like, dang, a 2x? That's fantastic. And now that you can put Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto on your balance sheet as a business, good gracious, if you got cash, pretty interesting. Now, let's talk about the Pulse chain. The Pulse chain is the fork of Ethereum, and a fork is a copy. The Pulse chain is a copy of Ethereum. But what was interesting is the token ETH is the gas token on Ethereum, so ETH. Every transaction you have to use that token. Well, in the Pulse chain, it's called PLS, right? And that's for Pulse chain, but the ticker of the token is called PLS. What's incredible about the Pulse chain is that unlike Ethereum, it is not OFAC compliant. And what does that mean? OFAC compliance is where they review all of the, and this may not matter to you as some old guy, but I'll tell you. OFAC compliance is basically a list of questionable wallets. And if you try to do something with those questionable wallets, you can't do your transactions. Basically, it's censorship, and it's agreed on by those that are in crypto. And that's what we're seeing. More and more regulations, more and more limits. Now, if you're on one of those lists, you might there may be a reason you're on one of those lists. And there's a lot of shady characters in crypto. However, there's shady characters everywhere. What I look at when I look at the Pulse chain is I see the leadership and the structure of the Pulse chain as a copy of Ethereum having a really big opportunity come post-halvening. And the halvening of Bitcoin's coming up, I think, on the 20th of April. So next month, we're very close to the halvening. And I'm going to talk to you about what's happened after the halvening in the past. And we'll see if that happens again. But I think there's opportunity within the Pulse chain because of the nature of the macroeconomic situation. We've got authoritarians on the rise. We've got all kinds of censorship. And having a place where you have some money that has the potential to run when everything else gets shut down. Now you're like, whoa, hold on a second. We're getting into conspiracy talk here. Well, what does the future look like? Well, if you can't, what are they trying to do? They're trying to get people in Europe and in the UK, limiting the amount of transactions. They're trying to really clamp down on things like fiat off ramps, right? So that you got a limitation of how much money you can get out. They'll let you come in, but you can't get out, right? Sound familiar? And, that's where we're seeing all this regulatory control. Now, is it going to ultimately all get shut down? No, it can't. It's Pandora's box is open. The cat's out of the bag, folks. So I'd rather be on a network that is the infrastructure of Ethereum, but to have it in a place where it's truly decentralized and we don't have the founders or anybody that has any influence over it going to be doing deals with the devil, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. But when it comes to this cycle and you're somebody that's over 50 and you're like, hey, I'm not looking to get a 10,000x. You know what? I'm not a fan of Bitcoin. I'm a fan of Ethereum. But when it comes to the future of sovereignty, of freedom, of the ability to speak, the ability to transact, the ability to have privacy. I don't see any other, blockchains outside of maybe Cardano. I'll give them a little hat tip, but I would say the Pulse chain is really the place. It's the blockchain of freedom and sovereignty, and we are supporting that. And so I don't want to give you advice, but I also want you to understand there's some really, really simple things. And a lot of people would say, well, why aren't you hustling and shilling Hex or shilling Texan or something like that? Because I care about people. And I look at them and I go, there are a lot of people out there that have serious amount of kind of extra capital. And so don't just, you just don't put all your money on one, roulette number, right? Black 22, let's go. So I'm kind of using a practical approach to this. And I feel the reason I say this is because crypto had to prove it to me, right? Most of the time, when I got into this whole crypto game, I was like, how much money can I put in where my wife won't leave me if I lose it? Well, that was nothing, right? That's, the guys that have won big, they'll be like, you got to put in more money to do that. Well, you know what? I had to wait a cycle, right? I had to experience what crypto did and how it did it. And I had to understand the cycles. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. Where are we in the cycle? And so let's look at, this is the old man's guide to crypto. So let's take a look at this. Okay. Now this looks kind of small, but let's just look at what we're seeing here. So this is a log chart of Bitcoin, and these black lines are the halving. Okay. So when the halving comes, it's where Bitcoin gets twice as difficult to mine. Okay. And what's happened is these events have happened essentially every 4 years. And when they've happened, the market's gone up. Okay. So this is kind of what you could kind of call a supply shock, even though it's not really. So, in the early days, and we'll look at this diagram, and it's obviously kind of difficult to read. But I think you're going to get the point that I'm making here. Okay. So we got the 2012 halving, we've got the 2016, the 2020, and then 2024. Okay. So I want to make a point to this. And this to me is how the old man looks at it. Okay. So this is the alpha, if there's any alpha in all this. This is how I look at the market. I don't do astrology for men. I don't do TA. I don't look at the charts from that perspective. I look at this. There's a cycle. And in that cycle, post-halvening, things move up. Okay. Now, take a look at this green bar and the blue bar. The green bar is representing a year before the halvening, and the blue bar is representing a year after the halvening. Okay. So let's kind of look at this first one. We don't even have anything before, but the increase was 416% before. And then it was 715% increase. Now this is early days, right? So huge up. And we go to the next halvening. We had 110% increase, and this is from the bottom to the halvening, and then a 283% increase the year after. But then we had a significant jump. I mean, this went, even further as it got into 2018 to hit that top. Then the halvening that was prior to the zombie virus, 76% increase prior year, and then 423% increase in the year following. Now, you'll notice here on the halvening after 2020 is that double top. And of course, what happened in the middle of there was the Charlie 19. So this is kind of a unique part of the chart. Now, let's look at the halvening that's coming next month. Okay. The anticipation of the halvening is mid-April, I think 420, which is pretty cool that it's on 420. So we've had an increase from in the last year, basically a 50% increase, maybe. Well, what's going to happen a year from then? And so if you look at these charts, you can pretty much bank on the fact that it's going to go up and then it's going to go down. Well, how much time do we have? Well, in the first one, it was 13 months, and then it was 15 months, and then it was 16 months to the top. All right. So if you're somebody that's out there considering getting into crypto, or you're into crypto, I'm just going to give you my opinion. You've got about 12 months from the halvening, give or take a month or two. Okay. So if I was being really, really careful and cautious, and I was just looking at the cycles of the past, I would, as we get into April of 2025, I would be your eyes popping out of your head, paying attention, really paying attention to what's going on in the crypto market. Because essentially, if past performance is an indication of these cycles, and let's say Richard Hart is right again with the top call, and let's say he's right, it's $241,500 Bitcoin. And I'm not making a call. He's making a call. That's pretty incredible, right? Because we're sitting at $70,000 Bitcoin now, but we're also sitting at $3,500 Ethereum. So what could that mean? Could that be $20,000 Ethereum? So it's really interesting to me that this is going to, barring nuclear war, we've got ourselves a really interesting next 12 months. And it's going to get really interesting over the next 12 months. But if you're somebody that hasn't been in crypto and doesn't understand these cycles, here's the bottom line. The frenzy is going to happen, and it's going to go parabolic. It's going to go up into the right significantly, and we're going to see amazing things, and everybody's going to get really excited and euphoric, and they're going to say, Bitcoin's going to $1 million, right? And you're going to remember old man Crypto Heartbeat telling you that 12 months from the happening, you need to really be paying attention, right? And if you don't take profits, you'll do what so many people have done. They just hope and hope and hope, and it bleeds out on them. Because once the big boys are gone, right? Once we've hit the top, it goes down 85%. That's kind of the rule of thumb. And you got to wait 3 years. And if you look at the past, that's exactly what happened. Now, people are playing around with all kinds of things, right? Trying to get a buck here and there. But if you're an old person like I am, and you're looking, you got other things to do besides, be a degen, and you have a lot of other things to do, watching out for kids and family and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, you know what? All right. I think probably one of the safest flyers that I'm taking is on Ethereum. And that's really more kind of to diversify appropriately. However, if you're really interested in digging in and you want to see where there's some potentially really significant returns, I think you need to pay attention to the Pulse chain. I really do. I think you need to look at Pulse. I think you need to look at PLS. And I think you need to look at projects that reflect your values that are built on the Pulse chain. Because I think there are other things happening within the Pulse chain that are not just related to just straight volume. I think there are characteristics. There's a nature and character of Richard Hart, this ecosystem, and the way that it's built, and the way, his ethos, that actually could put Pulse chain in a place where, it more represents your values. I'll keep it that simple. Things are getting out of hand in this world, and there's a lot of clamping down. There's a lot of people that are trying to limit things. And I think what we're going to see is new countries and new jurisdictions in this world that are going to be adopting DeFi instead of Bitcoin or Ethereum. I think we're going to see nation states who actually are embracing the concept of DeFi as monetary policy. Can you imagine, like, just for fun, can you imagine you can use Texan in the new Republic of Texas? Folks, that's not as crazy. 3 years ago, it might have been a little bit crazy talk. Folks, if you haven't been paying attention, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, basically is like, there's a line being drawn in the sand, my friends. And I'll tell you what, it's, there's a really good possibility that we're going to see, the reduction of the size of government, meaning states are going to say, nope, we don't want to be a part of this union. I think we're going to see it across the world. And we're seeing that in general, is that, people are making really dumb decisions, and those people are far away. So we'd like to do that closer to home. That's a whole other discussion as it relates to independence movements and such. But I believe that there's a home for those who care about freedom and sovereignty on the Pulse chain. And so I think that I would say to you, if you're somebody that's considering getting into crypto and you're over 50, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with Ethereum, but that's my opinion, right? It's not financial advice. It's a financial opinion. However, what fun is it to go to the casino and not risk a little bit, right? Because that's essentially what it is. So in the speculative assets, what I'm so excited about is the Texan token as an example. We are paired with PLS, PLSX, the Richard Hart tokens. And in my opinion, what we're going to see is we're going to see Hart's law in action. And that means really anything that is paired with Pulse and Pulse X that's on the Pulse chain is going to move up together with those pairs. And so as Pulse and Pulse X and all the other tokens, Inc. and Hex, as those move up, it's going to drag the other projects with them. That's a really good thing. There's real upside potential. But there is in many different places. So you have to do your own research. But, I would be remiss if I didn't say most people over 50 or over 60 that have extra money are looking at this crypto thing and going, well, everybody's telling me I should buy Bitcoin. I'm not in any way telling you should buy Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is ultimately, I think it's lost. I really, truly think that it is becoming way too centralized and it's being taken over. Ethereum, I feel less about that, but I really feel like there's no one interested, or I don't think it's possible to take over the Pulse chain because of the way that it's been structured. But it's all the good mojo of Ethereum, but with an ethos of freedom, independence, self-sovereignty, and such. All right. So that's the real alpha. You got about 12 months. That's how I see it. Now, you may disagree. Pay attention. But if you look at anything in the past, this is it. I mean, this is the only thing I need to look at to understand, hey, what time is it? Well, the halvening's coming up next month. You got about 12 months. You may get 14 out of it. But it's like, if you're somebody that's, happy, I mean, this is what's so funny in crypto. When I first came into crypto, people were complaining about a 25x. Think about this. Imagine you complaining that you got 25 times your money. That's like, oh, that's bad. That's not good. I mean, from my perspective in investing, I mean, like, you double your money, you're like a winner, right? Let's have some beers, man. Buy the room around. So that's something to keep in mind. I think a lot of young people are expecting, I just want this one thing to be a lottery ticket and I want to never have to work again. And I just don't know that that's ultimately sustainable and that you can just pick them like that. But this is a market where the money is moving. And, many of the analysts have said that crypto ultimately, when it's mature, will be the size of the bond market or the real estate market. And that's, what is that, 200 trillion a piece? What are we at right now? 2.5 trillion as far as market cap for all of crypto. So if you're not, exposed to it, you don't benefit from its growth. But this is still a unique time. I mean, what, 5%, 6% of the global population is in crypto and everything is going digital. So, you know what? Do your own research, but that's my perspective. And to me, this is one of the most important charts. You ought to like print this thing out and paste it on your wall and pay attention. You should set an alarm and just pay attention to the next 12 months, because I think this is the key to everything. And choose wisely, right? But you know what they say about putting all your eggs in one basket? I don't know. There's something about that. Anyway, let's say hello to you again, and then we'll say farewell. Ty Bull, what's going on? Good to see you. DJ Cryptomatic, folks. DJ Cryptomatic is one of my favorite hexagons on planet Earth. He would be considered someone that would be potentially more mature. But you know what? He's on the fence. Don't get high on your own supply. Amen to that, dude. DJ Cryptomatic is on Twitch weekly, I believe. He's on Twitch. He'll probably put in specifically if you like the tunes. I mean, he's the guy. 2 turntables and a microphone, if you know what I'm saying. Academaciated, we purchase health products from a store in Canada that actually prefers crypto. Fantastic. And that's where things are headed, right? You're going to know. But that's the thing I really love about crypto is, whatever you're in, if it's an ERC20 and it's on the Pulse chain or Ethereum, the chances are you're going to be able to get to a stable coin to buy something, because, retailers don't want something that's volatile. They just want, give me a dollar token. That's the cool thing. The question is, are we going to have a dollar token that's not controlled by, Circle and centralized people? And that's the thing that I think we're going to be seeing in the future is gold-backed stable coins, or a good solid algorithmic stablecoin like DAI. I think DAI might end up being the one that ultimately wins in all of this. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing is that any money that you put in, chances are it's going to be preserved and you can swap. That's opinion, not fact. Um, Steve Wright, thanks so much. I sure appreciate all of your work. Looking forward to all of your projects. Yeah, we've got a Dex coming out called Freedom Swap. That'll be coming out in May. We got a number of things up our sleeves. We've got a new community in England that we're working with. And so to me, the future is decentralized. Um, Tin Top's like, my sell limit order is already at 241,499. You're going to get the top. You are the Tin Top. That is hilarious. Can you imagine this, Tin Top? And I'm sure many of you think about this. When you hear that number, right? So Bitcoin just hit its all-time high, right? 70,000. And you imagine $241,000 Bitcoin. What does that mean for Ethereum? What does that mean for Pulse and PulseX? I think we're so beat down in the bear market, we don't realize how these things can run. And you have to remind yourself, if Bitcoin's going to do that kind of increase, and Richard's right, good gracious, what are the other things going to do, especially cycle one stuff? So, folks, patience is such a big thing because here's the problem. Unity in community is really the key that makes this stuff special. What do people want that want to destroy you? They want to separate you, right? They want to get a wedge in between you. And what happens when people are down? They fight with each other. Let's stop fighting. Grandpa Pulse, our ethos are very similar for sure. And that's the thing. I look at this and I go, what levers do we have to pull to push back? Right? I think this, like, let's get another guy to go to Washington. Right? I'm done with that. Like, I don't think that works. It hasn't worked. It's a place of corruption. So what do we have to do? Well, the key is the purse strings. And with DeFi and these type of things, coupled with political movements, we essentially can take this thing back and return it to popular control. I think it's incredible. The way in which crypto and DeFi and these things work with essentially political movements is really the opportunity, because the problem in the past has been you might have a voice, but you don't have any money. And all the people that control everything, big pharma, the military industrial complex, all those people have the money. What would happen if we literally starved the war machine? What if we actually looked at the technologies and really, built things that were a benefit to the people? I feel like when I was younger, I had this general sense that people that were representatives wanted to make my life better or make my parents' life better. And I'm not saying that there aren't some decent people, but it seems like, you enter the beltway in DC and they just consume you. And these bureaucrats and all of this stuff just consume you. And so we got to find a different way. And I think the greatest way to do that is to cut the funding, right? And I love it that it's a wholesale change. It's not like, oh, well, we're just going to save our money. No, we're going to change our money, because all that your money is an agreement. That's all it is. It's not backed by anything. It's a shared fiction. And so why is our made up internet money better than the government's made up internet money? Because we've got agreement in community. That's the key, right? So we have to remember that. Why is it valuable? Because we consider it to have value. Now, you imagine new, economic zones, free trade zones, jurisdictions, or new countries, and you've got something really, really exciting. And I'll just make this point. I have this personal vision that there's a country out there that isn't birthed yet, right? That becomes a new country, or it may be an existing one. And it says, what we're going to do? We're going to do a DeFi token that's going to be legal tender. And what we're going to do is we're going to let anybody for a period of time essentially donate to this treasury. And let's say this treasury, has some certain benefit to it. Let's say it's healthcare, or let's say it's something socially based, right? And it's some sort of trust, and you put money into that. And that money, at least half of it, is used for liquidity. Okay. So anyone within the country, and really anyone around the world, could support the creation of this new legal tender currency. You name it, it's for your country, and the distribution of it is based on how much you put in. So you're having this incredible opportunity, just like the sacrifices, to basically invest in the people of that country. It's DeFi, no admin keys. So there's no one that can control supply, right? It has a staking mechanism. It may have an inflation rate. It may not, but it's set in stone. Now imagine people from around the world go, wow, that's really innovative. And they invest. Well, those dollars come in, they get locked in liquidity. You've got immutable contract on the blockchain. It's got burned, there's no rug pulls for this country. And then the people have the ability to stake for yield. Imagine that as a new thing, right? Hey, we're going to adopt this. I hope in the future I have the opportunity to visit with really forward thinking leadership of countries who would say, if we were to adopt DeFi instead of a centralized banking model. Now, it's not that you wouldn't have some sort of centralized banking model, but that you would have also this DeFi alternative. And the DeFi alternative essentially gives everyone an even footing. Now, you could say, well, the people that have more money to put into this would receive more token. Yeah, they would. But this means anyone has the same opportunity as anyone else. And with staking and those type of things, you're essentially imagine the staking on your currency, your new currency in your country actually pays your taxes. Like literally the interest that it produces. And so you're able to essentially fund your, social and governmental activities from, the interest that it bears, and it resets the rules. And there's a way in which DeFi could become, at minimum, a side-by-side tandem currency with existing currencies, or could be a wholesale change in the very model, financial model for sovereign nations. And I'm going to tell you, return the power back to the people and give everyone the even footing. Because, at the end of the day, people are going to be more wise with their money, and people are going to be able to, consolidate resources. But essentially, you're kind of saying, hey, everyone has a shot. And of course, you think back at it, I'm so glad my grandpa put the money in and he had the original. He was one of the founding members of our new currency in our new country. So, you know what? You can hope and you can pray. But thank you for joining the Pulse today. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat, and this is the old man's guide to crypto. And I hope that it's been helpful to you in some way. If not, whether you're young or old, I think the most important thing to note is understand the Bitcoin halving and the cycles, and understand what happens pre and post halving. April 20th, we think is going to be the halving date. It varies based on the blocks. You got about 12 months. That's how I see it. Now you can make a case that I'm wrong, but look at the chart. Folks, thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your week, and don't mess with Texas. Take care, everybody.